any words?
Hey guys, I'm back. We just had a little discussion about something, but let's go ahead and continue.
So, because we don't want that, we don't want to be excluded out of being YouTube. But when somebody being violated,
Right?
can we use the R word and revamp that word? Can we use that R word to change the title and say, okay, the victim took it back? We can never take that word back because basically, like I said, when you go to a nursery, do you say, oh, look at these beautiful little ends we had? Because if someone else said, let's go to the nursery side, oh, look at that baby. Oh, that's a beautiful little end.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that little end girl.
Mm-hmm.
See, when you put it in that perspective, in that concept, then we have to look at it different because the world gonna look at us different and never treat us the same. But we keep considering ourselves that we can never reinvent
Mm-hmm.
a negative word that was so profound on a certain race.
Right. Totally agree. So, what other races do you hear that's being that have been degraded as much as our race?
None.
And we degrade ourselves. How many other races you hear call themselves negative words
None.
like we do?
None.
We have a serious problem, and I don't know how it's going to be resolved. I don't know if it will ever be resolved, because I remember a person back in the day used to say knowledge is power. Unfortunately, we have no knowledge. And that was one of the main reasons why we have no power today.
Mm-hmm.
Because you look at all of this stuff that we're seeing on social media, just about everything we see on social media today is negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get on the positive. I mean, not on the positive. I'm going to get on the other folks. The people that do have the education are not standing up enough to get out here on their channels or whatever and speak the truth. We're letting all of this negative stuff override. And these young kids today, they believe everything they see and hear on social media. And that's wrong.
I think today's society, parents, I'm a different parent from that, to where we're afraid to hurt our kids' feelings. And so you got to understand, as part of the Asian community, and then I have friends that's in a African community itself, they're not afraid to hurt their kids' feelings to teach them what they have to do.
Right.
But as Black Americans, sometimes we are afraid of, well, this is the way I grew up, so I need to change.
Right.
Sometimes we can we more so cripple our children by basing it off the way we grew up. It was a different time, different era. These kids now can get on the internet, and now they can see and reach more data than what we ever had. Whether the data is mainly true or not, they collect as a collective data.
Right, right.
And sometimes the kids think they know more than their parents. That's why I tell people, I said, hey, I'm not afraid to look and see what my kid's going through. I'm not afraid to see. And I told my kids, I never want to hear you consider yourself an N. And I told my daughter, which we're not speaking now, that's another topic, that she could turn around and say, I want me a real N. What's a real N? Because I got to teach my kids, let's put that in a sentence what people say, I can't trust these niggas. What is positive about that? Or don't trust no nigga working in your house. Or as my family members in law enforcement, when they get pulled over, it's like, nigga, what you know? And they're in law enforcement. But I've been told, hey, they disrespected me on that level. So once we start looking at ourselves as not that word can never be reinvented.
No, it cannot.
Never. So once we stop looking at ourselves as that, we can start being considered humans and people. We was already considered only 1/3.
But let me ask you something. We throw that word out just like it's throwing out candy to each other. But if a person of a different race uses that word, we're ready to fight them. How much sense does that make?
None at all. Because why use it?
Why even learn that word? Why not denounce that word every time you hear it, just like you just spoke about a little earlier? But we don't have the right to get mad if somebody else has used that word, and we're the ones throwing it out every day. Exactly. Look at all this rap, and I'm going to tell you how I used to call it. Look at this rap crap that these kids listen to today.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the words of that stuff. Listen to some of these entertainers like that person who calls herself Red. I'm not gonna say the first part of that.
Oh, yeah.
And how many kids are following individuals like that? And where are the parents? I realized back in my day, we had a thing we used to call the baby generation, babies raising babies, and that wasn't too far back. Now we're seeing the product of the babies raising babies generation, because this is the end result of that. When the girls used to get pregnant at a very young age,
Mm-hmm.
their parents or their mother wasn't too much older than their kids. So how is a kid going to learn from a mother who's anywhere from 12 to 16 years older? So now you got that 20-year-old, and her daughter is what, 8,
Mm-hmm.
9?
Mm-hmm.
So how is that going to work? And another thing that we don't talk enough about, a lot of the stuff that's going on today is caused by our government. Because back in the 50s and 60s, government came in and they helped the poverty people of my generation, ones that didn't have, jobs, and they gave them the handouts like the stuff I mentioned earlier, the powdered cheese, eggs, and all of that. But there was one major stipulation to that. It had to be only the mother in the household. The father couldn't live in the same household.
I remember those days.
So that was a crutch. That was a major crutch. Now you can have a mother that's raising her kids, and there's no father in the picture because the government wouldn't allow it.
You know what? As a contractor, I got a chance to witness that a little bit, even still to this day, to where if you are in the government assistance, they said the father couldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
That was already a systematic destruction for the black family.
Right.
Where you got it now to where the father couldn't be in the house and the woman had to be head of the house.
Right.
That's why when the man did come around, they said, well, black fathers weren't around. The ones that tried to be around couldn't be around. Not speaking for the ones who didn't want to be around, the ones who tried to be around couldn't be around. They had no credit. They had no solidity.
No,
they had no foundation. So now today, as our family, we have to break this stereotypical, this generational curse, I call it, in a situation to where we have our sisters leading the households.
But how are you going to break that? How are you going to break that?
I think once we get to the point where we start sitting down and talking with one another, sitting down, understanding one another. Like I tell, this is me. I don't care if I make $1 less or $300,000 less than the woman I'm with, I'm still head of the household. Once we understand that, not about church, but a spirituality based, understanding our purpose the way God made us, we have to understand that. We'll never break it. If we turn around and look at other cultures right now, if you look at their women, it's not saying that they do not have an opinion, they do. But we do not have our households they don't have their households being led.
No.
The men are leading the households. Whether we got to the point now to where what destroyed the black community, even having spies within our community, is money. Money overrides race. So when you got it at that point, when you can be bought out, a person can sell their own embryo for that purpose.
True.
A father can put his own child in jail for that purpose when it comes to money. So basically, as they say, we chasing a bag, or I gotta have a real end that's making money. If money get to the point, I call it, as America look at it, as people don't want to take this in. It's more insulting when you say entertaining monkey than the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we don't consider that just as a threat and negativity being, it's called an entertaining monkey? We have to have our women gyrating, twerking, dudes on internet, my age and younger, even close to your age, with money hanging up against their face. Tell me what culture on the internet is doing this.
We're the only culture.
We're the only culture.
You might see a few Hispanics out there every so often doing that, but not as much as our culture. And I, for the life of me, cannot understand how a female, especially a female, a mom, can get out there and what's the word I'm looking for? Degenerate. Is that the word?
What, gyrate?
No, degenerate themselves into doing this craziness of twerking and having their babies out there twerking on these podcasts. And if you go to TikTok or any one of them, you see this all day long. Sometimes when I'm getting my next topic together, I thumb through a lot of video folks. And sometimes it's so stressful on me, I have to just say, oh, I've had enough of this for the day, put the thing down and go to bed. And then come back the next day and try to tackle it all over again. But to me, this is part of that babies raising babies generation who did not have the knowledge or the I shouldn't say education, but one other thing, folks, when I talk like this, I'm not talking about 100% of our people. Let's get that straight. Let's get that straight right off the bat.
Correct.
I'm not talking about 100%. I am talking about those that don't stand up and say, hey, whoa, wait a minute. What Shaniqua or whatever just said on her podcast, that's wrong. That's what we need to have more of, because people are listening to the wrong people on social media. I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I'll be the first one to say, hey, Smith don't know, old school don't know everything. I don't know everything.
Same here.
But I know how to look up to research what I'm looking for. I know how to even ask Alexa over there, hey, Alexa, what's the terminology for racism or racist and all of that? And she'll give me the answers. And I'm not satisfied with that, I go back to Old Webster. That's a dictionary, folks. I know most of y'all don't know what that is. Or Encyclopedia Britannica that we had back in my day. Nowadays, you got everything. Look here, I'm talking to you folks on a camera that's sitting over there looking at both of us.
Right.
That's how technology has evolved throughout those decades. But we have gotten to the point that we're too lazy to even do that. We'd rather run to a TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube and look at all of this nonsense. And then ask, well, why did my child do that? How did my child get in trouble?
So even within the span that we have, as you're being the same age as my parents, we've gotten lost in that little bit of time, and so disconnected from listening. But when I look at other cultures, because I do pay attention to other cultures and I listen, not saying other cultures are perfect.
No.
They're not the epitome of all things, but I'm looking at it as, when I look at them and they listen to one another, or they, even if they didn't want to, they sit down. And I think right now we're losing our family. And this was systematically brought up.
Oh, definitely.
For our men and women to fight one another online. We're the only ones that's really fighting one another online and breaking it up. And I feel like we're getting lost now, because I wish I could have sat down with my pops and had this conversation like I'm having with you.
Right.
But it's been older men such as yourself to where I had to learn more. Now, I thank goodness and thank God that I'm able to sit down and do this, but it would have been nice to. And not saying I can't blame him totally, because I did have to learn. My parents grew up in a different era.
Right.
So I had to forgive them and forgive myself on certain things of not understanding. Now that I'm more aware and more knowledgeable of things, I forgive my parents because they were limited on the knowledge and education that they had.
That's right.
But let's go here. You're the same age, but you're educating yourself and learning more. Because is it truly an age, or is it considered on what you really want to do and learn?
You have to want to learn. You have to want that knowledge. You have to. I'm in my 70s. I know I don't look like I'm still looking pretty good.
Still looking pretty good.
But anyhow, I'm like most individuals, but I thirst for knowledge, even at my age.
Mm-hmm.
I was born on both sides of the fence. I was born in the 50s where we didn't have all of this nonsense, well, it's not nonsense, but all this technological stuff that we have today. And I'm still here to learn about this new technological stuff. That's where the want comes in at, because I thrive. I love doing what I'm doing. I love interviewing. I love putting that information out there. One of our greatest resources that all races have, but it appears like our race does not use, is our elders. Do you realize how much knowledge your mother, your grandfather, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your great-grandfather is carrying around in their heads? More than you can find in any textbook.
Exactly.
But how many of us go to them and say, hey, Paul, can I talk to you? How were things back in your day? What were things like? I have never heard that.
Mm-hmm.
I have never, and I'm not talking about in my family, but with anyone I see on all these social media sites, I have never heard that. Just like I told you that story at the beginning about the trip downtown with my grandmother to Woolworth.
Wow.
That's what I remember.
And that's going through the back door.
That's going through the back door. That's seeing those water fountains, coloreds over here and whites over here, separate water fountains. Everything was separate.
What's so funny about that is that people in our age in the late 40s, mid 40s to early 50s, don't really, and I'm not saying none, but the majority really don't realize that wasn't too far apart.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. What's the difference between the two? It was called the Civil Rights Movement in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made the difference. That's when we woke up and said, oh, we've had enough of this.
Is Brown versus Education, was that around? That
Brown versus Board of Education?
Brown versus Board of Education,
Yeah.
67, 65 area?
Well, the Civil Rights Movement was, I think, finalized in 65, I believe, 1965.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're right between the two of them. That's like I said. That's when the bus boycott came about. People you've heard of, Shirley Chisholm and a lot of other folks in my era came about and stood up and said, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King came up and said, we've had enough of this. It's time for a change. And I'm shocked at what's happening here in 2025.
It's scary. It's scary. It's
Everything we fought for seemed like it just washed out the front door.
And what's doing that? Money and fame.
Money, what's that old saying? The love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
And it's showing today. It's showing. I could never lower my standards for money. It ain't gonna happen. Not from what I've seen. And how do people think they got to where they are in this era today? It didn't just magically appear like a box of cereal or something.
True. Now what I'm thinking, let's go outside the box a little bit. I had this conversation with someone. Okay. Basically, money is the root of all evil, right?
The love of money.
The love of money, right?
Right.
So if you have information and generational knowledge of wealth that'll help me continue in your lineage to continue with a family, what stops that is money.
Right.
Because here it is, you have the society in these social medias, these entertainers, the production companies and things like that. It's saying, okay, let me give you something that's going to stop you from learning. Let me give this one person millions of dollars to stop a generational wealth. But let me put generational wealth, the word, inside your head. Because most people today, it's the bag, or I want to create generational wealth.
Right.
You cannot never create generational wealth just by money.
No, you cannot.
So what they do is they stop and break us up within the household. When you break it up in the household, you break up in the community.
Right.
Don't let me get on churches on that situation.
Oh, no, that's a different topic.
That's a different topic. Yeah. So now you have it to where the Willie Lynch letter.
Yeah.
And a lot of people heard of it, but they never really read it. I've read it multiple times.
Right.
So Let me give this one person some money, and now I mess up a generation of their whole family. I mess up their family lineage because I can make you rich and make them jealous and make you
Would
think.
you say that's by design?
It's definitely systematically designed.
Right.
And that's the way it is, because we're the only ones on TV that's got to show the ignorance. No matter how much money we have, we got to show the selfishness. We got to show, once we get that money, let me not see these other people pulling you up before I lose my money. To me, and this is another topic, we as Black Americans really do not have a country to back us up.
No, we never
Not
have.
like African American, not like I don't consider African Americans. We're not.
No.
We're Black Americans.
I was born in this country.
He was born in this
Same as
country.
you. Yeah.
So when you got Africa coming over here, those are African Americans.
Right.
So we technically don't have Africa backing us up, or whatever. From if we're part Germany or Asian or whatever it is, we have technically no other country backing us up. So if you ever notice, do we see a lot of Asians get in trouble on TV? No. Do we see Latinos? It depends on if they're coming from across the border or whatever the situation is, getting in trouble. But they still have Mexico, Venezuela, and all different Latino countries backing them up. Black Americans, we don't. All we have really is one another, and we have the assistance outside of other races.
We really don't even have that anymore, because we're like a bunch of crabs in a 5-gallon bucket, trying to pull each other down as we try to escape from that bucket. You ever see that? Back in the day, that's what we used to say that.
Crabs in a bucket?
Crabs in a bucket, and you have a bucket half full of crab. One's going to try to get out, and what's going to happen? One of the crabs below him is going to grab hold of him and pull him right back down. We do the same thing in this country today. I mean, our people and other races also do exactly the same thing. They will not, and we don't back each other as far as our race giving back to our race. We'll go out and we'll go to Walmart, and since that DEI stuff, I have made up my mind. I'm not even. I'm going to call out all these individuals or the companies that are backing this to take away from DEI. I do my research and I find out which company is which. And hey, I don't have to give you my money. I don't have to. I'll find somebody. If I have to drive 25 miles down the road to go to a place that is fair, I will do that.
That's funny you said that. I remember in Detroit, we had predominantly Black businesses and Black homes.
Right.
We did. And the Middle Eastern people moved in, and they got their merchandise cheaper, their product cheaper.
Right.
So basically, we walked past the Black-owned stores to go for something cheaper, not realizing we was cutting one another out. And I had to find out once I wanted to buy Mr. BB's beer and wine store growing up.
Right.
I was working saving my money because I really wanted something for me and my family. Found out to buy products I was being charged a lot more.
Oh yeah.
30 to 60% more than what the other people was being charged. So I had to up my price. What does that do? That takes people who look like me bypass my stores.
Okay, can I get you to hold that thought? We'll go to a quick break here. We'll come right back at you guys, okay? All right, guys, as you kind of noticed, that topic there was a tad bit intense there. But as promised, I have one more, and this is going to be the, what do you call it? The top of the line, I guess, where we really delve into a lot of the problems. And again, a reason why I have 3 different segments is because when we got to talking, it was well over an hour long, and I didn't want to bore you with, sitting there listening to us for a whole entire hour. So it was better just to divide it up into 3 different parts. But again, I ask that you comment, and I do comment. I mean, I do get back with the comments you put down there, as far as what you feel about it, and if you have some more suggestions on what you want myself and a few other old guys and old women to talk about. like I said, on this platform, I'm gonna have everybody here. I mean, everybody that wants to get on this, just come on down, and we're gonna sit down and we're gonna tell it like it is, because there's just way too much nonsense going on, and it needs to be corrected. And the only ones gonna correct it are who I call old school. So if you're getting anything out of this, and you feel that there's a need for more of this type of topics, and not just on race, but on anything pertaining to old school, we're going to talk about it. As simple as that. But I'm going to go ahead and get started on that third and final segment of this, and as I stated, it's going to be real good. So hang around for that, and I had a good time with this topic. I had no idea that Mo was going to come at me the way he did and the way I went at him. But like I said, I hope you guys are kind of enjoyed and picking up a few pointers on this. So with all that being said, this is old school. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to publish this third and last one. So you guys stay encouraged, and don't let all this nonsense stress you out to the max, because it's not worth it. But we all deal with it like we always have. And may God bless each and every one of you. So school, just getting ready to get started on that third one.